Right, so we're going to go next level with fonts. We know how to um, set up a layout. Using our text tags. And we know how to style the fonts, sorry, the text with fonts. And so far, we're spending a lot of time styling our text with web-safe fonts. But, the number of web-safe fonts out there is very limited. And that means our text is potentially boring. So let's look at web fonts. What's the difference between a web-safe font and a web font? Well, let's talk about the similarities. They're both web fonts. They both can work on the web. What makes them different is web-safe fonts are built into the browser, and web fonts are not. So we're going to learn how to use web fonts. Web safe fonts. So here's our we've got two sections here. Our first is using web-safe fonts. Our second one is going to use web fonts. So we're going to take these, the H1 and the P here, and we're going to pick some other fonts. We're going to use Google Fonts. There are a number of web font repositories out there. Google Fonts is one that we'll learn to use because one, it's free, and two, the fonts that are on the Google's font servers are they're very easy to access, so they don't slow down your page. And if you go to the site here, let me just add this to our okay. We're going to update the headline and the text. So from Google Fonts, we are actually shopping now. We're looking around and checking out some fonts that might be cool for our use. There's a lot of different styles. You can keep scrolling to find the style that you like. There are many, many fonts here. There's hundreds of fonts. In fact, okay, here. Right now there's 1,052 fonts listed here. So it might take you a while to find the font that you like. Fortunately, this website has a search tool if you know the name, or if you know the style, you can use this filters setup. I'm going to look for a display style. Display would be something that might be appropriate for a headline. Look at this, they even have different languages and properties. So let's say I want something that's kind of thicker. Check this and run it this way. Show me thicker things that have a little bit of a slant. No, there are none. And that are a little bit wider. So I'm just looking for stuff, bigger fonts. I want it thick, the font. So here's one. This might look good. Changa one. I can double click this to go into the detail of this font and check it out. Everything is available. All the characters, where this font comes from, who designed it, and the different versions. So here's something called regular 400, and here's an italic version, regular 400 italic. I'm going to pick them both. Check them both here. They end up in kind of a shopping cart. And the shopping cart is listing all the fonts that I want to use and giving me some instructions on how I can add them. So that's pretty cool. So I've got these two versions of Changa 1. Let's keep going. I'm going to use that for my headline. And maybe I'll find a sans serif or a sans serif or sans serif. Actually, let me just reset everything. Reset all that. Reset all that. Start over. Okay. Maybe I'll... Yeah, this is good. Open sans. Let's take a look at this one. Look at all the different versions here. Light 300 italic, regular 400, semi-bold, keeps going bold, extra bold, italics. So this is great. Lots of options. Let me pick this light 300 and the semi-bold 600. So over here in this little sidebar, it's like my shopping cart. I've got Changa 1 with these two variations and Open Sans in these two variations. I've added 4 different fonts in my little selection. Down here in this panel, use on the web, these are the instructions that I can use to add these fonts to my design. So what's happening here is Google Fonts is not just a website where we can look around and pick fonts. It's also a server platform that makes these fonts available to my pages and to the browsers of the visitors of my page. So to connect these fonts to my page, I need this code to embed onto my page so that my page can find the font and let the end user know how to load the font into the browser. So there are 2 methods here, link and import. You can use either one that you want. I'm going to demonstrate the use of import. I'm going to check this, and all this stuff shows up here. I'm going to grab that, copy all that, and take it over to my HTML. I'll put it up here. I'm putting it up here because I copied the style tag, and the style tag is an HTML tag, so therefore it needs to go in this HTML section. However, what's in the style tag is CSS, so I could just copy what's in the style tag and put it down here if I wanted, and that would be fine. So maybe I'll do that. And I'll leave this here just so anyone who's interested will know that, hey, it could go there too. So I've created the link. Now this page knows how to get to these fonts. You can see because the URL here is actually pointing to the Google Fonts repository, and it's loading up Changa 1 in several styles, italic and the default, and then Open Sans in 300 and 600. Okay, so that's what this URL is about. The second piece is the CSS rules. These are the rules that I can use to have these fonts show up on some element of my page. I'll copy these over too. I'm going to put them in a comment tag. Here they are. So for this H1, I'll put in a style, and I'm going to grab this whole rule and put it right here. And now this font has changed. Maybe I'll make it bigger. There we go. Maybe even bigger. It's such a bold font. It looks like it needs to be a large size to really be displayed the way it was designed. Okay. I'll copy this. Open Sans as my text. So as a comparison, let's style both of these boxes so that they're more visual. Okay, so now we can see the difference between some text that's using WebSafe fonts, and then some text that's using web fonts. There are so many more fonts available to us as designers today because of web fonts that are stored on the cloud. Google Fonts alone has more than 1,000. There are many other choices. Google Fonts is not the only choice. Some of them cost money, so that's something to take into consideration. But for our purposes, just to expand our game and our options for typography, we can make use of Google Fonts and create whole new pairings of display text for headlines and reading text for our paragraphs. And because of that, we'll probably want to find our favorites and find fonts and pairings of fonts that work well together for different kinds of presentations. For now, it's enough to know about how to use Google Fonts. Go check out Google Fonts and look for your favorite fonts.